This is Martin Lappin with Alternative Heating Solutions, and we're going to call this self-install number 3, the back of the boiler. You can certainly do your own installs, and there's a few tips to make everything a little easier. Heatmaster stoves come with an elbow and a valve already on them. Then you can use a short nipple and a cast iron flange. However, if you're pressed for space, and you can see the end of that 1" 90 and the end of the T are the same height, but look at the difference in the pumps. That one where you use a short nipple valve, short nipple flange, takes up a lot more room. The more room you use up on top, the less room you have on bottom to make your connections. And you can see we're going to go right for the edge of the flange where the gasket would go, 5.5 inches roughly. If you get these taco, and yes, I know some call them tacos, spelled like a taco, call it what it is. If you go with those, you save 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches make it a ton easier to connect at the bottom. And here I used copper for the simple reason I like it better than the black iron fittings when possible. And you can do things with these you can't do with black iron either. Like this is a street L, and when I put it together, I probably cut 3/8 of an inch off the end so it'd slide on farther. That lined everything up. If you had 2 elbows and you can't get any shorter than a short nipple, you can't do much there. You're kind of hosed. Same way on these. I actually took these log store fittings and turned them in the lathe, made a sweat fitting out. Saved a ton of space. So I didn't have to use a nipple on the adapter, then go to copper. And you see this one, by shortening it up at the top, I had enough room to use a regular female copper adapter to the street L. The other thing, I much prefer these gland nuts because they seal tight compared to a regular Romex clamp. And you can go to Lowe's if you want these right angle plugs. Their dishwasher cords will work. They're rated for 105 Celsius. All the cords I use are all rated for 105 Celsius, which is over the boiling point of water. The other thing, if you want to do some remote monitoring, the foil tape and some thermal grease on them is the best way I found to do it. Unless you actually want to invest in all thermal wells, which it'll give you quicker readings. I'm not sure how much more accurate they would be. Here's just dielectric unions to go from the copper to the brass, mainly because that's just what I had. Stainless nipple. You could use any kind of union there. And lastly, I much prefer a piece of armored cable in the back compared to just running the Romex up out of the ground and into the stove. There I come up out of the ground with a short piece of conduit and then went to the armored cable. Do it right the first time, you won't have to redo it later in the middle of a blizzard. This is Martin Lappin of Alternative Heating Solutions. If you find our videos helpful or informative or even a little entertaining, please subscribe to our channel. And as always, if the women don't find you handsome, at least they can find you handy. Martin Lappin again. I've got a little addendum here. This one is done in PEX for the simple reason that someday I'm going to come right up through this opening with another set of underground line and go to a generator shed I plan on building. And I'm leaning towards diesel right now because I always have that on hand. Several years ago, our utility actually had a pumping station go down, and they wanted everybody to turn their thermostats down to 63 because they were worried about the gas pressure dropping. If that happened, I'm not sure it would run a 30 or 40 kW generator on lower pressure. So again, looking at the diesel. And like I said, come up the bottom with the new, then we'll probably do a copper return. I got the harebrained ideal that maybe while the generator's running, it'll backfeed some heat to the boiler. We'll see on that. The other thing, this is a Taco Delta T pump. And by looking at the blinking light, right now it's probably running at the slow speed. What it does, you got a sensor on the supply. Then you got one on the return. And it's got a dial in there. You set what you want your differential to be, or delta T, and it speeds up or slows down to try to match that. And of course with no load, it goes to the slowest speed. And if you're pulling a bunch of heat, it speeds up to the maximum. So basically you got a itty bitty pump and a great big one all in one unit. It will save you some electricity. Depending on the application, it may take a considerable amount of time to actually cover the cost, because they do not give them away. I actually picked that one up for a little bit of nothing. This has been Martin Lappin with Alternative Heating Solutions, and as always, if women don't find you handsome, at least they can find you handy.